NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, Football Edition, brought to you by our primary sponsor, 3Chord. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, Tony Fairchild, and AJ Fairchild. So, guys, it is officially the conclusion of the 2022 football season, and we saw a lot of good football. And today, we'll go ahead and we'll announce the all NWO Sports area football team. But good to have you guys back on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, we missed it, actually.
Yeah, it was like, wait, it's Wednesday. Wow, what are we doing? Got some free time.
I just thought we got back here, and it's been a while since everyone's been back together in the same room. Yep. So it's good to see everyone back here.
Yeah, it was a exciting season, man. And just area teams just didn't pan out there at the end, but it was a lot of fun watching teams go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it was a blast, and just shows how good there's some talent in the area is. And I had a chance to watch some of those state games, and I tell you what, those teams that knocked off our area teams, those are some pretty quality teams. And I got to watch Marion Local beat up on Kirtland, and that was quite a game. And I tell you what, that's two quality football programs, and to see Marion Local go out there and handle business against a program like Kirtland, that's phenomenal.
They're there every year. I mean, that's Kirtland. You always hear
one
Kirtland.
Of the two.
You always hear Marion Local. Those are the teams you hear every year.
Yep.
I said too. I think I was kind of spitballing an idea. Is maybe sometime we could have Coach Goodwin on from Marion Local's head football coach, just to pick his brain and see what it's like to be from a small school and produce results like that. But nonetheless, it was a good year from all the schools around the area, and really had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks going and watching some of the teams and getting to cover them. So
a little cold, but we were freezing our butts off at a couple of games, and we were in the press box for the other one. So got to see a blizzard come through, watching Antwerp play against LCC, and we were in the wind bowl, and our face was froze. We were watching Liberty Center.
Hey, it was all worth it though. So
AJ and I were joking around, we had the hand warmers in our gloves and kept putting our hands over our mouths because the wind would blow. It was like freeze your lips. I felt like Clark Griswold looking at the Christmas tree in Christmas Vacation, couldn't talk.
It's almost I kind of thought too, like Dumb and Dumber, where they're riding on that moped through Colorado and they're on the back of it and freezing. That's what I kind of thought of too. So, awesome. But we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and release the Players of the Year first, and I'll release them in each category. So, little rundown is the Players of the Year. They will receive an 8x10 plaque award. Bat Stevens Body Shop is sponsoring those. So we'll go ahead and we'll get those shipped out here once they're created. But we'll kick it off here. Offensive Player of the Year for NWO Sports was Aiden Pratt, Van Wert quarterback. I'll go through and introduce the other ones too. So Defensive Player of the Year was Owen Box, defensive lineman from Liberty Center. Coach of the Year was Casey Moeller from Liberty Center. And Iron Man of the Year, which if you guys don't know, that award's kind of someone who has been through some tough times or showed a lot of perseverance from either an injury or just the situation they were put in. And that award this year is going to go to Trey Parsons, Wasion quarterback. And I'll kind of talk about this too, is just what he's been through. He didn't necessarily get to start at the quarterback position right away. He stuck with it, and we talked to Patrick Henry head coach Bill Inselman I guess more than a few weeks ago now. It was a while ago. But anyways, he brought up the comment how nowadays everyone wants that instant gratification about playing. And he's someone, I believe he's a junior too. He's stuck it out, and especially quarterback position. It's not like other positions where there's multiple spots. Right. There's only one spot and there's one signal caller. And he really stuck it out, and he did a nice job filling in that role halfway through the season. And he really just did an excellent job at sticking with things. But what are your guys' thoughts on the Players of the Year that we ended up voting for? So
I'm gonna continue on with the Iron Man with Trey Parsons. If people remember, the greatest quarterback in NFL was a backup to start. I mean, Tom Brady came into the NFL as a backup, and due to an injury, that's how he got his start. And then the rest is history, guys. Congratulations to Trey for sticking it out and getting his opportunity, and then doing well after that.
That's going to show some life lessons down the road as well. You're not going to get that instant gratification in life. It's going to take years of hard work and dedication in your career path and in life choices to be able to be successful. It's not just going to happen instantly. There's some outliers where you get lucky and have some success right away, but those are the extreme outliers. So some life lessons learned.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't go into a better person.
And I just, one more comment too, is I think if other kids out there, I think they should pay attention to Trey Parsons. And that's what really helps create good football teams. I mean, those kids that are in there grinding year in, year out, he's putting work in the summer. Those are the kids you need on your team. And that's how you build winning programs.
Right.
And to see someone like that, we kind of talked about too, just the way people are and they act, especially on the football field and off the football field. That's contagious. Kids start seeing him put in that extra work. They see, well, if it finally does pay off if you stick with it. Yep. That kind of sloughs off to some other kids around him too. So excellent job. Yeah. Just talking about a couple of these player of the years and coach of the year. Coach of the year, Casey Mueller, fantastic job. I mean, I couldn't believe they lost, honestly, because they were blowing everyone out of the water and handling business. But he did a very nice job. And we got to hear him talk some of his end of the game speeches. And you can tell he just pours his heart and soul into the Liberty Center football team and the community. And he's definitely one of the best coaches in the area. So he's very deserving of this year's award. But you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's, when you think about Coach of the Year, you think about some of the coaches we have in our areas, like we talked about Insaman. We had a chance to speak with him. Coach Hale from Antwerp. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches in the area, and I mean that comes as a high honor, in my opinion, to be the Coach of the Year.
I agree.
AJ, you have anything?
Not so much for Coach of the Year, but kind of segueing into Defensive Player of the Year. We were at the game against who did they play that last week?
Elmwood.
That's right. Watching Elmwood, and Owen Box is one of those guys. We're looking through his stats. Not the highest stat producing guy, which was kind of like, where does he rank? But he was almost always double teamed.
Yeah.
Every play he was getting double teamed, and that opens up the role for other people. And he really makes an impact out there on the field, both offense and defensive. But defense, he really shines.
Yeah,
we've discussed too, if kind of the criteria to win an offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, kind of being that guy of knowing where he's at on the field at all times. And Owen Box definitely filled that category. If you're playing against him, you better know where he's at because he's going to be a menace in the backfield and he's going to cause some disruptions.
Yeah, that's exactly what we talked about, Logan. When you're looking at game films, I want to know where that guy is. Yep. Get a body on him. So yeah, Owen Box was definitely at the top of that list.
A couple of games that we saw against Sonora in the Coldwater playoff game, like he would be out of the play but not give up. Like he would still be in on the play as it was already past him.
Yep.
So
I think just his pure drive, like you said, there's a lot of players that we've seen throughout the year, whether that be offensive, defensive line, wide receiver, they loaf, they take off the play, they're not involved. But that, I think we saw a play too. I think AJ brought it up there at the last podcast. He chased down the field after him, and just to have that mindset where he turned and ran, and he ended up getting in the play like 10, 15 yards downfield. I mean, that's impressive to see out of a defensive lineman, and that's something, too, that college coaches look for. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes somewhere to play at the next level easily.
Yeah, and he kind of made a joke. That was during the interview with him. He made a joke about those are when he's downfield like that, making those tackles, kind of one of those, oops, got to cover my butt a little bit situations.
Right.
But that really says volumes about him, though, because, a lot of kids, when they make a mistake, they just kind of, oh, that's it, I'm done. But
they give up on the play.
Instead, he turns around and chases the guy 5 yards downfield. So he's not quitting just because he made a mistake, which is awesome.
And all these comments kind of carry over to Aiden Pratt, too, quarterback from Van Wert, because that last game against Glenville, I mean, he gave it his all. And I don't understand how he's not getting some Division I looks. I mean, the quality of opponents that they've played and the consistency that he put in and week out, that kid can ball. And that was one player I wish we had a chance to see this year, but unfortunately we couldn't catch a game of Van Wert. But he is legit.
Yeah, I watched him play against Glenville there, and that was on TV. And I tell you what, that dude can sling it. And makes me think back that, like you mentioned Division I looks. It makes me, I was thinking about the Mock boys. They came from Kenton, WBL school. Yeah. And, they went to big D1 schools, decent big D1 schools. And I would hope that Pratt's getting something because, gee whiz, he slings it.
Yeah, I tell you what, whatever college team gets him, they're going to be very lucky because He has a lot of athleticism, and he can beat you on the ground too if he needs to.
Right.
So that's the thing. He can keep moving those chains down the field.
And I was just getting ready to say that, Logan, and not only that, but he does run the ball too, and it fits right into a lot of the college offenses
Nowadays.
now.
Yep.
All right. Well, since we kind of discussed all of our big awards, we'll go ahead. We'll announce the first team for offense and defense, all NWO Sports teams, and then we'll go into our second team and then honorable mentions. So I'll just kind of rattle off some of the players here, and then the guys will discuss any thoughts that they had. So for first team, all NWO Sports on offense. For quarterbacks, we had Aiden Pratt, Van Wert, and Carson Ultimus Antwerp. At the running back position, we had Matthew Orr, Liberty Center, Carson Dominic, Archbold, and Trenton Barraza, Columbus Grove. Wide receiver / tight end, we had Landon Brewer, Antwerp, Landon Johnson, Patrick Henry, Maddox Crutchfield, Van Wert, and Caden Nestor, Eden. Last one here for offensive linemen, we had Owen Box, Liberty Center, Landon Bockelman, Liberty Center, Logan Dotson, Van Wert, Austin Miller, Antwerp, and Brian Burrows, Archbold. So we'll go ahead. We'll discuss the offensive players first, and then we'll reveal the first team all NWO Sports defense. So what were your guys' thoughts on some of these players?
That's a good team.
Yeah,
That's a good team. I mean, wow.
it's almost like you'd like input some of these numbers in a video game and someone just watch them play and see what happens.
Yeah. That's I mean, if you're talking about putting a team on the field to go play against some other, different. Let's say that you're going to play against another region, for instance, or another region. I mean, that's some of the best players that we have.
I think something crazy looking at this list is 2 kids on the wide receiver list, Landon Brewer and Landon Johnson. The 2 Landons, they will be back next year too, and they were both first team all state at their respective wide receiver position. Oh, Landon Brewer's for defense, but I mean those are 2 talented kids that I cannot wait to see what they do next year, because not only that, but they're bringing back their starting quarterbacks in Carson Ultimus and Nash Meyer as well. So. But those 2 are very talented. Same goes for the running backs. Carson Dominic from Archbold. I know we haven't talked much about Archbold for a while, but man, he is just a tank there at running back, and he would run so hard. Very impressed by him. Same with Trenton Barraza and Matthew Orr. I mean, that's why we nominated them for first team running back. But excellent list here on the offensive side. Let's look at the first team all NWO Sports defense. So we'll look at linebackers first. So first linebacker we had on the first team was Tad Cook, Columbus Grove, Reed Leachty, Antwerp, and A.J. Schaefer, Columbus Grove. And next we had for defensive line, Owen Box, Liberty Center, Landon Bockelman, Liberty Center, Javen Gaines, Sonora, and Caleb Stoner, Napoleon. Defensive backs, we had Landon Cruz, Liberty Center, Tyson Rodriguez, Wauseon, Ashton Bear, Van Wert, and Zach Reynolds, Columbus Grove. So, what are your guys' comments on these players here for first team NWO Sports defense?
Would love to see the first team offense and first team defense go ahead and see what happens.
Unfortunately, you got a couple kids there going
box, right.
We might win defensively if they're not on offense.
Right.
But yeah, I tell you what, it's we had the opportunity to watch Liberty Center play, so it was a lot of fun. Obviously, we watched Sonora, and I saw Antwerp play as well, Wauseon. So a lot of those kids we've got to watch play, and I tell you what, those are some great athletes and very deserving of the first team award.
Yeah, and Javen only played half the season.
Yeah,
that's a crazy thing. He was a third team All-State player as
well.
I'd
like to see him play a full season with the kind of numbers he could have put up, but just the half of the season he played, he made his mark on the Tenora defensive line.
Yeah, absolutely.
First game back against Wayne Trace was immediately felt that presence was there already. So yeah, I would love to see what he would have done with the full season.
Yeah, and then he wasn't 100%.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, he was still kind of nursing an injury there. And even Logan made a comment about it was a little early, but he made it through it, and he did a great job.
And just looking at some of these other players, Landon Cruz led the area in interceptions with 7. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a defensive back. And you look at linebacker, those 3 linebackers, Tad Cook, Reed Leachty, and A.J. Schaefer, those are some tough son of a guns because we were able to watch Reed Leachty, and he just plays so hard, offense and defense. And he's a kid that just plays his heart out and gives 100% all the time, which was very impressed with him. Tad Cook and A.J. Schaefer, also 2 great linebackers as well. This is the second year that A.J. Schaefer was an All-Ohio player.
We actually talked to those guys, right?
Yeah, we interviewed those guys too. Two great kids, and again, they did big things this season and helped make quite a run for Columbus Grove. But excellent list on the defensive side of the ball as well. Then we'll announce first team. Special teams, kicker, we had Jacob Bishop from Tenora, and punter Creighton Kern from Archbold. So what are you guys' thoughts on special teams here?
We said it all year long. Special teams. And I tell you what, I made a comment there when Liberty Center played Elmwood. The kicking game was huge in that game, in my opinion. Yep. If Elmwood kicks the ball, that's probably, they kick the extra points. That's probably a different ball game, because they were kind of taking it to Liberty Center a little bit, and then they didn't go for the extra point. And special teams is huge, in my opinion. And, Bishop and Kern are both. Kern was booting the ball. We looked at his stats. What was it, 40-some yards a kick? Yeah.
And I think he was an all-Ohio player, I think, for both football and soccer. And his older brother's playing down at Ohio State for baseball too. So definitely an athletic family he comes from. And same with Jacob Bishop. He almost nailed 50-something yarder at Hicksville, and he had a couple opportunities too.
48, I believe. And then that one at LCC was 44, I think, hit the crossbar.
And he was a weapon all year for Tenora. And we got to watch him. He was 8 of 10 for field. He had the most field goals of the year, 80% from field goals. He was 30 of 34 for extra points. Just very accurate, very consistent, and it was kind of neat to see him develop over the year as well, and as just a sophomore too.
Yeah, kickoffs went into the end zone quite frequently, and he can attend some of those summer kicking camps. He's only going to get better. He still has 2 more years, so should be one of the better kickers in the area the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, to see him develop some strength. Yeah. He's still young, so as he grows a little older and gets a little more that man strength, how he's going to.
Yeah, Jacob's not that big. Yeah, you see him in person, you're like, just get some technique down, and like AJ said, build some leg muscle, and a big bright future for Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that concludes our first team, all NWO Sports team. Let's look at the second team, all NWO Sports offense. So looking at quarterback, we had Kyler Sapp from Eden and Zane Zeider from Liberty Center. Running back, we had Colton Cruz, Liberty Center, Owen Berner, Ayersville, and Brogan Castillo, Defiance. Wide receiver / tight end, we had Abe Delano, Ayersville, Connor Campbell, Van Wert, Nate Phillips, Van Wert, and Camden Fuller, Antwerp. Offensive lineman, we had Tad Cook, Columbus Grove, Tyler Spiesiak, Brian, Sierra Scale, Antwerp, Mason Siegel, Archbold, and Jackson Jones, Van Wert. So any comments on this group here?
AJ mentioned how the first team going against the second team. This is kind of not another have the two teams play against each other. It's you could put the second team against the first team. You still got great athletes.
If we're taking our second team and you have Colton Cruz and Owen Berner and Brogan Castillo as your running backs, that's pretty impressive.
I would say you're still in pretty good shape.
There's really not much difference between your first and the second team running backs.
And that's what the thing with all these teams is. It took us a little bit to kind of to decipher if we wanted first or second team, but really all these players are all quality athletes. So I think. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
No, it's just when you look at Zane Zeider, as a second team quarterback, he led his team to the state semifinals and ran for over 800 yards, and he made second team. That just shows you what's ahead of him.
Right. I think another name on this list that Eden should be really happy and pleased about is Kyler Sapp. Talk about a kid who comes in. I'm sure there's some questions. He's just a sophomore, but replacing the legendary Drew Gallahue at Eden, who set all those records. And I know it's a Bob Ullman offense, which they pass the ball a ton. But for him to come in, he had the third best passer rating in the area with 107.08, only behind Aiden Pratt and Carson Altimus. And for those you don't know, passer rating kind of takes into consideration your completion percentage, your passing yards, and your passing touchdowns to interception ratio. So it kind of shows your overall quality as a quarterback. And he was third in the area, and 26 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's pretty impressive as just a sophomore, and stepping into a big role when that is the main position in that offense over at Eden. So I was very impressed with him. But overall, again, a bunch of excellent athletes on this list. Let's look at the second team, all NWO Sports defensive side of the ball. Looking at linebacker, we had Landon Schroeder, Columbus Grove, Christian Camiso, Defiance, Sierra Scale, Antwerp. Defensive line, we had Justin Duncan, Wasion, Aiden Behrman, Patrick Henry, Parker Vollmer, Brian, and Holden Barnes from Delta. Defensive backs, we had Chase Miller, Archbold, Shep Halker, Columbus Grove, Dominic Graziani, Tenora, and Caden Rosebrook from Patrick Henry. So what are your guys' thoughts on here?
Again, a bunch of good athletes. I just, like you said, Logan, it was tough to make the call, who went where. But, it's just, again, you could take those players and put them anywhere,
Yep.
I think, too, again, just kind of commenting on some players that I was able to watch. Dominic Graziani from Tenora. Obviously, we covered Tenora, so we know them a little bit better than some of the other schools. But his growth throughout the season, not only on the defense, but also offensive side at quarterback. But he had 5 interceptions on the year. He kind of became, I don't know, more comfortable with himself, you could tell, because, I believe he's a sophomore too.
Yeah.
You go out there at the beginning of the season, he looks just uncomfortable, doesn't look natural at first, but he really filled in his roles well later in the season. And then, Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, we've referenced Friday Night Lights several times on here, but the people that watch the TV show, kind of, to me, it's kind of like Matt Saracen took over the quarterback role for Street once he got injured, and same situation there. Dominic came out, kind of fumbled around a little bit, stumbled and bumbled, but you take his game when he came in versus Ayersville to his final couple games, it's not even the same kid. Like, his growth was so much offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
So,
that was
can't wait to see for him for the next 2 years on offense.
Yeah, and like you said, he got thrust into it with the injury, so he was on the sideline and kind of got thrust into that role. We saw him a little bit at the Wayne Trace game and come in at quarterback, and he struggled a little bit, like you said, kind of fumbling. Right. Actually fumbled the ball, and it was fumbled the ball, and and then got pulled out and didn't see any more playing time then until Gavin got hurt. But great turnaround.
Just a few other comments for myself here. Holden Barnes from Delta. Talk about a kid, 85 tackles, 10.5 sacks. He had 26 tackles for loss and led the area. We were talking too, and his teammate Maverick Mercer, which we'll get to later, from Delta, 65 tackles, 15 sacks, and 20 tackles for loss. We said combined between those two, they had 46 tackles for loss and 25.5 sacks. And that, I said, one of those kids has more sacks than a lot of teams around here. And I said that was very impressive out of those two. But that was something that stuck out to me. And then Cirrus Gale from Antwerp. Just watching him play, he's another kid that plays very hard, and for being a bigger linebacker, he runs sideline to sideline very well. He can lay the wood if he has to too. But he was someone else who really impressed me. I got a chance to watch this season. Looking at second team special teams here, kicker we had Shep Halker, Columbus Grove, and we had punter Hunter Valkulik from Evergreen. So they were the NWO Sports second team. Let's go ahead. Last section here. We'll look at honorable mention players. So these are just players we thought deserve some kind of recognition. Again, even if you didn't make these lists, believe me, this was pretty hard to try to decide. I mean, we probably took us 45 minutes, at least an hour to try to pick these. But these are some other athletes that stood out to us: Luke Wessel, Van Wert, Nash Meyer, Patrick Henry, Grady Gusweiler, Tenora, Jude Armstrong, Wasion, Garrett Gunter, Van Wert, Maverick Mercer, Delta, Corey Everts, Edgerton, Carter Keese, Eden, Brylan Parker, Van Wert, Reese Crew, Van Wert, Weston McGuire, Ayersville, Dylan Bryan, Columbus Grove, Brady Clark, Ayersville, and a couple of 8-man players we threw in here because they deserve just as much recognition. Levi Barnum, Stryker, and Xavier McCord, Holgate. So any thoughts on the honorable mention selections here?
Well, just the last two you mentioned there, the 8-man guys that, they've got some great stats and they had great years as well. And they, like you said, they deserve to be recognized because they had great years. I mean, McCord had 2,200 yards passing. So, I mean, it's a little different with 8-man, but not much.
No, right. A very talented crew here as well. But as Logan said, like back in our day, like me, Tony, AJ, even Logan at times, like, if you didn't make the list, that's nothing personal. It should be like motivation, actually. Hey, I didn't get noticed, so I'm going to go. Like Marvin Harrison Jr., like didn't win the Blitnikoff, and they showed the video of him like at 10:30 at night out there catching passes for the Buckeyes.
I saw that.
So he's like, hey, I'll just make myself better then so I get noticed next year.
That's crazy.
And on the flip side, it goes, if you made this list and you're coming back next year, keep getting out there and bettering yourself too.
Absolutely, because the person you're going to face is going to be like, well, this guy was first team all conference. I'm going to show what I can do against this first team conference guy. So
yeah, because there's always going to be someone better than you out there. So, and don't think, and we've even seen it at Findlay, though you can have all the accolades and do well this season, you never know. Nothing's guaranteed. And like at Findlay, our coaches would tell you first. Actually, my coach sat an All-American offensive lineman and benched him for another kid just because he thought someone was better. And so I thought that says a lot too. Yeah. But go out there, keep performing. And playing the sport of game, or playing the game of football, is a privilege. It's not a right. So go ahead and enjoy the sport and keep busting your butts in the off season. But
for me, it's always I always tell my kids, if you're not trying to get better, you're getting worse. There is no staying the same, because if you're not trying to get better, the people around you are working, so they're getting better. That means you're getting worse. Yep. So there is no staying the same. You're either getting better or getting worse. Yep.
Well, guys, that's it. Short podcast for today, but just a little conclusion where we wanted to announce the all NWO Sports football team. But where you guys have closing thoughts, final podcast of the season.
Well, for me, again, it was a great season. A lot of success to area teams, and it was awesome to watch. I mean, a lot of different things happened this season. Turmoil with from Paulding having problems right before the season started, to Tenora having problems during the season, to watching Liberty Center and Antwerp make runs deep into Columbus Grove, Van Wert making runs deep into playoffs. It was awesome. And watching those kids from those teams like Paulding and Tenora overcome adversity and still be successful. Tenora, won a couple games in the playoffs, and it was a good season for me. But for me, guys, it's thank Keith for allowing me to be part of the broadcast, and thank you for inviting me to come up here and do this, because I tell you what, this has been a blast. And like Keith said, I kind of missed it when I wasn't there. Kind of like, man, what am I going to do with my time? But no, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of it. It's been a lot of fun.
Kind of going off of the adversity things people have faced this year, there's a lot of first-year coaches this year that we talked about at the beginning. That first podcast we did, it was like, man, this is a new coach, and this is a new coach, and they've got a new coach over here. It's like football is kind of changing, and it's going to be cool to see how some of the coaching philosophies change as well, with some of the younger generation now stepping into the roles. I know, I believe it was Inselman that we interviewed that talking about how he's changing his offense because that's just the way football has grown. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to continue this. When we do it next year, just to get back into football, because we're about 8.5, 9 months away.
About 9 months.
It's funny that you say that. Yeah, but it's not that far away.
Yeah, probably about 9, because right now would be the final scrimmage. Really, 14th. Ish. Yeah. So pretty close. But for me, number one, I may have a lot of things I can talk all day about this stuff, but thanks Logan again for allowing us to come on here and doing all the stats. I mean, I know how much time this stuff takes, and you got to love this sort of thing. And this is something that I'll personally take next year and use it, like for each week, and you can come back and compare stats. And I think I still have the one that Logan sent last year that I used for the first month or two. But yeah, having you guys, we traveled all over the place the last couple of weeks, covering the playoff games, went to games together. It was a blast. But one thing I've learned, as we found out as we went over to Lima Central Catholic, like when we're doing games at night, like we're just talking amongst us. But then you realize you reach a whole nother audience out there. So we're just a bunch of guys hanging out talking football on Friday nights and on Wednesday here, Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, whenever we do the normal podcast. But, even during basketball, people come up to me and say, hey, I got so-and-so at the Patrick Henry game last night. Somebody was watching and listening in Chicago. Hey, my grandson in Chicago, he can't be here, but he's watching. And they came up to us lots of times throughout the season just to thank us, for what we do. But even though we're just a bunch of guys having fun, pretending to be like knowing what we're doing. There's a lot of people that we reach that I guess that at least I didn't realize at first, but then once they come up to you and say their family's watching and, Arizona or Washington or wherever, then we go online and like you can see the numbers that people actually watch and you're just like, that's a lot of people. So, but thank you guys for this year. We've had 2 back-to-back great years. It's been fun.
Yeah,
so,
a blast.
I would say for me, my closing thoughts, I just want to thank you guys for jumping on board with this. At first, kind of unsure how it would turn out, but it's really grown in its following, especially as the year went on, and just to see even going to games and people recognizing us without any kind of markings or we didn't have anything on. We just had street clothes on and people were telling us thank you, and that's just awesome to see the support from the community. But again, it all goes to just try to bring some more awareness to the kids. Like I said, if I was a kid playing football and this stuff I'd be eating it up. It's just awesome just to give some kids a little bit of fame and just honoring them for all their hard efforts and work, and that's just awesome. Yeah. Second thing I want to bring up too is I guess if anyone wants to look up stats, I put them on NWOsports.com website, so you can look up actually all the football stats from last year. There's a link. There's links on there. Same goes for basketball and baseball, softball. I have all those stats, the stat leaders from the area, so you could go on the website. It's under the news section, so if you're curious or want to look up those. But again, I'm excited to see how this podcast continues to grow and see what we can do to make it better next year. And I guess I didn't realize it's a long time without football now for high school. So,
this is like my favorite time of the year. High school football on Friday nights, the college football on Saturdays, and pro football on Sundays and Mondays, and even with pro playing on Thursday, that's when you get all kinds of football, and then it's like all of a sudden it starts drying up, and you're like, man. Yeah. No more football.
Now what do I do with my time?
It's like, I guess I'll go work or something.
Right. Find something to do. But I guess last thing for me, if anyone has any kind of recommendations that we could do to better the podcast or anything, we're open to a lot of things. So we'll see how we can keep this thing rolling and making it better and a better experience for everyone watching and listening. So if you guys don't have
one more thing that you don't want to thank the people that are listening and watching. Thank you for paying attention and like you guys stated, coming up and saying hi without any markings. Also,
awesome.
Obviously they watched the podcast, so they recognized us without any markings, and which is neat. But thank you guys for watching and listening, and also I want to personally throw out a shout out to all the sponsors that help cover some of the costs that goes on with this, and we're not making millions of dollars off this, so it's we're just kind of doing it like he said. We're just a bunch of guys getting together and talking football. So again, thanks to all of our sponsors for helping out.
Yep, and that's what I was going to go into next, is thanking the sponsors. So again, we'd like to thank all the sponsors that kind of help for this. A lot of the stuff's not too cheap, but again, we do what we can to bring awareness and promote the athletes in Northwest Ohio. But our sponsors are 3Chord, Bat and Stevens Body Shop, Tenor Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, NWO Basketball, Drop Zone Pizzeria, Optimal Performance Fitness, Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty, and LC Tiger Sports Live. Also, again, want to give a thanks to my grandfather, Jeff Batt, for allowing us to use his body shop here for all our podcasts. And he's always a support for everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether
he's the best of the area.
Whether that's athletics or anything else, he gives a lot back to the community. So extra thanks to him. And again, for donating the nice plaques so all the Player of the Weeks will get, I think, 4x6 plaques that he is helping to cover, as well as the Player of the Year awards. So I'll get those. Those will be made up here shortly, and we'll get those sent out to the schools to give to the players. And then once the players get those, if you guys can send a picture back, that would be great.
Heck, that's awesome.
So again, last time. So stay tuned for the NWO Sports Podcast next season. So
can't wait. Countdown.
So thanks for watching.
See ya.